Hello friends, this is a Wards Airline stereo 8-track record. Never seen anything like this before. It's an 8-track recorder apparently, as well as player, I'm sure. Now 8-track, for those of you who were lucky enough to miss it, was a format that kind of overlapped and may have predated cassettes, and there was a lot of technical problems with it. Basically the tapes would kind of go bad after a while or get tangled up in all kinds of problems. It also had an annoying clunk feature whenever it switched tracks. So they call it 8-track because it has 8 recording tracks, so that's 4 stereo tracks, which they describe here as channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what happens is every time the track circulates, there's a little metal tape on top of the magnetic tape that makes a connection and basically clunks a little servo to go from 1, 2, 3, 4 and back to 1. It actually moves the tape head up and down to find one of 4 stereo pairs that are on the tape. Now I don't ever remember seeing blank 8-track tapes. I've never seen a recorder before. This one has mic inputs, and if we turn it around to the back, we can see some more details here. Tape out, tape in, right and left, that all makes sense. Here's the model information, which is Wards Airline GEN6827A. Now, Airline was Wards' electronic brand for their in-house electronics. It's kind of analogous to the Sears had their own brand, Silvertone, I think, yes. So Sears had Silvertone and Wards had Airline. And Wards and Sears, when I was a kid, were kind of comparable in a lot of ways, and they sold lots of different things, like a department store, except it was kind of on the low end affordable range. So this is probably in that category. It says serial number 26122. I'm surprised they ever made 26,000 of these, but I guess they did. I haven't got the date on this, but it's probably late 70s. The construction is kind of interesting. It's this nice brushed steel on the front. Looks pretty attractive on the front. It's got kind of the standard decal type thing over some sort of probably fiberboard, probably the same stuff that's back here. And below, I've noticed this actually is a piece of plywood, which surprises me because you normally don't use plywood in this type of low-end mass production type unit. And while we're at it here, I also picked up this Lazy Susan thing for $6 today, so now I'm going to be able to rotate things glamorously around like we're on The Price is Right or something. So as you can see here, I paid 10 bucks for it. The thrift store that I bought this at typically tests electronics. It says light up here, which makes me think they just kind of plugged it in and turned it on. They may not have had any 8-track tapes sitting around, or certainly not want to go through the trouble of fully testing this for their purposes. So what I'm going to do is plug it into my trusty watt meter here, and when we power it up, we'll see what we get. This always comes up in volts, so we have to switch it to watts. 3.8 watts plugged in. Actually surprised it's that high. Oh, it's turned on already. Okay, that's why it's so high. Actually, that makes sense for a turned on unit. Let's turn it off, and hopefully this will go to 0, which it did. So we got these nice level meters, record level buttons, and all kinds of other things. ALC probably means automatic level control, pause, stop. So auto stop probably means to stop after, looks like there's a little symbol here of 1 or 4. So auto stop would either stop after one track. A track in this sense is one whole loop of the tape, and 4 would be all 4 stereo tracks on the tape. So that's distinct from a sort of a track in the song sense of it. So one track on this tape might contain multiple songs. Restart, whatever that is. Fast forward, record, and select. Select probably manually transfers among the 4 channels, as they call them, the 4 stereo pairs. So that sort of was kind of one advantage of the 8 tracks, was that they had a you could in effect fast forward instantly among, you know, 1/4 of your overall recording length. So, you know, you didn't really get any kind of fine-grained detail on that, but you could, if you knew that what you wanted was on channel 4, you clunk it around until the light on channel 4 goes, and then you know, you could fast forward to get to the 3rd or 4th song on channel 4. So this looks promising as far as lights go. It's a nice looking unit. It's really sort of a time capsule in the sense of 8 tracks really were only viable for maybe you know, they were really popular for probably 5 years, and they probably existed as a something that people would actually buy for, you know, 10 or 12 years. Ultimately, I think cassettes won the battle against 8 tracks because of the fact that they didn't kind of self-destruct after a while, and they also didn't have this annoying clunk thing, which is when you run at the end of one channel and you're ready to go to the next channel, the music is interrupted and you hear a real audible clunk. We'll try to capture that for you here. And another thing is the cassettes actually used, they had 4 tracks, 4 recording tracks, meaning 2 stereo pairs, one for each side, and is on a much narrower tape. So basically in tape recording, one of the quality factors is how fast you move the tape across the head and how much sort of magnetic oxide you're covering per second. I happen to have one 8-track tape. I'll show you that real quick and then we'll try it out. So here's my one 8-track tape I happen to have. I don't even remember where I got this, but you know, these are still available on eBay. And one of the nice things about them from a user standpoint is, like in a car application especially, you just pop it in and you're done, and there's nothing to mess with after that unless you want to deliberately change channels here. So I don't have anything hooked up to this so far, but we're going to, I assume, record as with this pushed in. Oh, I thought that would latch in, but it isn't. So maybe it needs a tape. These have a kind of a keying system built into the plastic, and I may take one of these apart and show you how they work. There are other videos about that, but basically it's really a clever system that only has one reel, and it sort of pulls the tape out of the center and stuffs it back along the edge, and somehow that works, but just barely. So let's pop it in and begin to see some things happening here. So I hear the motor running. It's another thing I'd forgotten about, is these are kind of noisy in terms of the mechanical aspects. Meters are bouncing around in some kind of reasonable way that might make sense for music. I'm going to do select. We're on channel 3 at random, and that should get me to channel 4. Let's see, and you'll hear this clunk. So far so good. Let's try the fast forward. You can hear the motor went up. I'm not quite sure what restart would be. Maybe that runs it fast forward automatically until it gets to the silver piece. Well, I don't know. Now, also to stop this, all you have to do is just pull it out and it shuts off automatically, at least as far as the motor and part of the electronics goes. This is the first video I shot with this Lazy Susan, so I just learned that it's not a great thing to use when you're actually not spinning stuff around. So I don't have anything hooked up to the back of that yet, but we'll do that next on the oscilloscope and kind of verify what I'm pretty sure I already know, which is we've got some music coming out of this thing. Assuming that what's on this tape can be described as music. So just visually speaking, that shows every sign of being music. It's periodic at times. It has bursts, maybe from the vocals or drums or whatever. So I think we're in good shape to try this out on something else. We're in the range of about 150 millivolts, which is about what a line level should be for something like this. So next I'm going to hook it up to a stereo and we'll listen to this. Did a real quick hookup of this Iowa speaker and its twin over here. Use these in some other videos. They're reasonably good bookshelf speakers, especially for this kind of nominal functional testing. Got this little Pioneer SX2300 stereo, set it on CD mode, and kind of nominal settings, the A speakers. So we'll turn this on. You may hear some sort of a click or buzz as this goes on. Heard a little something there. And we'll pop in. I'm going to turn the volume down. I don't know what level we're dealing with. Pop that in. Now I hope this doesn't annoy you folks at home, but in order to avoid getting on YouTube's bad side, I'm not going to play more than a few seconds of any track. Now that actually illustrates another problem I'd forgotten about on 8-tracks, which is there can be leakage across different of these channels. So what I was hearing there, I don't know if it's coming through on the audio here, but there's a little bit of audio coming through from the adjacent track. I think that's because they space the tracks as closely as possible. Actually, this shows you one of the problems right now. There's some sort of discoloration, like maybe some of the oxide is flaked off the tape. One of the problems with the system inside these tapes is that they it's kind of such a marginal mechanical system that it actually puts quite a lot of physical wear and tear on the tape. The cassette player is a lot easier on the tape. Another thing that kind of helped in the 8-track era was the Dolby noise reduction. They were kind of using less tape area to record on cassettes, which led to a noisier recording. But with the Dolby noise reduction, you know, that ended up kind of evening out. They also improved the tape formulations, and we're able to record higher levels of, you know, magnetic information on some of the tape formulations. So that's why 8 tracks only had a sort of a certain period where they worked. You could, the really big selling point was you could use them in your car and then pull them out of your car and put them in your home deck. And I believe these were basically the first practical form of having recorded music in your own car. Cassettes may have been developed first, but originally I think they were mono and kind of intended for sort of home recording applications, you know, like your baby's first words or something. But with 8-track you had more of a true, you know, viable playback medium for your car. From a salvage point of view, looking at this, I'm kind of on the fence of what to do with it. There's only got $10 in it, so that makes it pretty wide open. I've been wanting to make kind of a audio measurement system, and this box and meters and knobs and buttons might actually be very good for that. You can imagine repurposing that, LEDs. You know, this really has everything you'd want as sort of a empty box to put audio into. It's got some amplifiers inside it for the microphone. So that's a possibility. Another possibility is reselling it. They go for in the approximately $60 range on eBay. I'm not sure exactly. And another possibility is you know, just sort of keeping it as a museum piece. You know, the irony of this is that you sort of hate to destroy such a rare and unusual item as this. It's not valuable in a cosmetic sense. It's not rare in a sort of antique collectible sense. But it's interesting and goofy and original, and probably, you know, it captures a certain era where, you know, why would anybody even consider recording on an 8-track tape? I don't quite have the answer to that, but maybe that made more sense if you could listen to your kid's first words while you were driving down the road. So having turned this around to the back, I can see these screws here in this fiberboard. It looks like that's kind of the basic method, is pull these screws out and then lift the fiberboard out of the channel. So we'll do that next. So this says made in Taiwan, Republic of China. This is in the days before China was kind of a manufacturing powerhouse. So let's see what's inside here. We'll discover this together. Got the input cables that go over to here. This must be the power supply transformer. This is the 8-track assembly. Here's the motor for the 8-track. Probably power supply circuitry here. Got the back of the meters all the way in there. You can barely see, and a little light below. And let's see, button panel on the bottom. Can't really see that from back here. We've got line ins on the opposite, or microphone inputs on the opposite side there. So without kind of tearing this apart further and destroying it, which I'm not going to do today, still need to decide where it ends up. I put the back cover back onto it. I've decided for now to leave it as is and put it on the shelf, and in a future episode we'll take it to the next step. One thing that I didn't do in this video is test out the record function, but that's primarily because I only have the one 8-track tape. So I'm going to try to buy some of those on eBay or find them at thrift stores, and then we'll try out the recording function and then figure out what the future of this thing is going to be. So we'll call it a video there. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.